All right, yes, indeed. It is once again time for the KeNikka Sports Show, everybody. Special Pi Day edition. It is 3/14. I am your host, Kenny, and I am joined on this Friday morning by my lovely co-host, the one, the only, Nikka, everybody. Good morning, Nikka.
Hello, Kenny. Hello, everybody listening to our show, returning and new listeners, potential new listeners. Thanks for stealing my thunder with the Pi Day today. Damn it.
I'm sorry. I needed an intro.
I know.
It was already take two, and you know it. So I had to take the low-hanging fruit. It is Pi Day.
It is Friday and it's a pie day. We are not having a pie, just to let you know.
Just to be clear,
Yes.
there will be no pie in this house.
Right.
The only pie we got is our crypto pie. That was kind of exciting because crypto pie just went like live. It's tradable. It has value. After 4 years of mining on our phones and getting it all transferred over to a wallet and all the crazy hardships with that. It was a process. That was nuts. Happy Pi Day. And it's nice to have it in our wallet.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Cool.
I want to give a quick shout out to my middle brother, Tommy. Happy birthday this week.
Happy birthday to
not on Pi Day, on 3/12. Anyways, I also wanted to wish my brother good luck this year as he embarks, I think, on coaching with his little man Teddy for the first time this season.
All right.
Good luck to both of you.
Good luck.
It's a special experience, the father-son baseball experience, and I hope it goes awesome.
Okay.
I hope they have a good time. That's what it's about. And I think Tommy will be a very fair coach if I know him like I know him. So good luck. Speaking of youngsters, it is Spring Breakout weekend here in the MLB spring training world. We have all the top prospects in the game on everybody's selective teams, kind of playing each other in some glorified exhibitions here in front of the spring training crowds with the spring training audience. And most importantly for these youngsters, the MLB network presence and publicity brought to their names. When I was a kid, we really didn't know who the hell was playing in the farm system for teams. You had to go really deep into like the trades magazines and stuff. And like when you're a kid, you don't really do that. I mean, maybe when you start to get into your teenage years and in your 20s, but by then the world had changed and I had the internet. So it was no longer a thing. But this is just funny to me now that like they actually have these games on TV and there's going to be kids at home tonight that are going to be watching, potentially the Padres with like Leodalis DeVries and Ethan Salas playing and be like, already fans of theirs and stuff because of their parents are probably going to be like knowing who they are. Like, oh, pay attention to these kids. They're going to be the future Fernandos and stuff.
So maybe it's more for households to get familiar with their names.
I think it's just for all fans of baseball that are casual. There's a lot of more casual fans than there are diehards. And anything that they can do, I guess, to bring the game into as many people as possible, make it palatable for them, make them understand the journey that it takes to go from the minors to the majors. It's a long journey. And most of them start when they're 17. It's when they're coming of age. It's when they're going to go through the most change in their whole entire life. And
not a lot of them make it.
Not a lot of them make it. More don't make it than do. And that's just a tough part of life. And it's not always fair either, as we learned in movies like Moneyball and now After. And we actually had some already last night. We saw the Boston prospects all hitting home runs. If you haven't been paying attention, Boston has 3 prospects in their minor league system right now that have all been playing during spring training and playing at a really high level. And their names are Roman Anthony. He's the top positional prospect right now in MLB's pipeline. Christian Campbell, who's number 7 overall prospect, and Marcelo Mayer, who's the number 12 overall prospect. So the future's looking bright in Boston right now. The question, I guess, is like, with things unfolding the way they are already in the AL East, are these potential trade pieces this year, or do the Red Sox want to hang on to all three of these young men and build around, basically have because they're ready to compete this year at the major league level. And yet it seems like they have a lot of trade pieces here. I'm curious to see how their season goes, what will happen.
But also knowing how the Red Sox organization is filling gaps in their lineup, getting Devers move and the prospects, are they going to hold on to them to fill in some holes and change positions maybe versus try to trade them?
Well, that is probably one of the most hot button topics I've seen in MLB this spring training, is just whether or not players are open-minded to moving on the field to the betterment of the team. And
we see a lot of moves like that lately.
We've seen it from everywhere from Devers and Bregman in Boston, even to like Arise in San Diego with playing first base or second base. It's like,
Dodgers.
well, yeah, I prefer second base, but I want to play. And if it's first base, I'll play first base. And
same applies to the
I don't know.
Dodgers. Look at what happened with the Mookie Betts on the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mookie's in for a tough season.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, you don't want to predict too much, and especially when you are a Padres fan, you don't want to play against the Dodgers because you know how that will work out. But I do fear for Mookie Betts' season at shortstop this year because it wasn't going pretty last year, right? It was last year?
Yes, it was last year.
Yeah, it wasn't going pretty when they moved him back to right, and so we'll see.
We see how it goes, but
we're going to see pretty soon because we also got some Cubs excitement going on in Japan. They're taking part in baseball festivities. I want to give a shout out to Lawrence Holmes, everybody, from The Score in Chicago radio, because during a segment that he and Spiegel were doing yesterday afternoon with John Morosi from MLB Network, JP, he mentioned that he didn't think MLB was doing such a great job of promoting this series here at home, and that everything in the media was all being done for the Japanese media, and all this, parties and things and the lavish press conferences and things. And like, I have to kind of agree with him here. Like, great point, Lawrence. As someone that takes in a lot of sports media, I didn't hear a lot of this being talked about. And I even want to extend it to last week's World Baseball Classic and the week before that. Like, there was not nearly enough media presence put on this, and made into the international event that it should have been, quite frankly. And that's disappointing to me.
yes, 100%.
And so baseball does need to do a better job promoting its product here at home. Mm-hmm. And they need to figure out a way to make people understand and know that even those games were available for free everywhere, online, on YouTube, on Facebook, on MLB TV. They were free everywhere to watch.
For a league that wants to expand to different countries and bring young people in, that is a low-hanging fruit. They should be talking about international baseball all the time.
And I think they are doing a great job of catering to Japan and some other countries, but they're not doing a great job of promoting it here at home.
I don't think we saw any advertisement for the World Classic games anywhere, except maybe a few mentions here
Well,
and
we
there.
saw it on Major League Baseball places, but not outside of there.
Right.
We didn't see it when we were watching HBO Max, for example, or Tubi or Amazon Prime. They're not trickling into these other audiences and making it known even that like, oh, there's an international baseball event going on.
Right. And those are the streaming services that do have games on.
Yeah. Well, and this was also because of the content that was happening on MLB Twitter. Japan is ahead of us, as we are starting to have dinner and get ready for our evening. They are waking up to the world and starting their day tomorrow. Like it's already tomorrow in Japan.
14 hours.
It's at least midnight there. So it's already Saturday in Japan today. And anyways, the long story short of all this is that the Cubs were doing a better job of promoting their individual team activities than Major League Baseball is doing to like promote the fact that this international event is going on right now. And they need to do a better job of it. Point is, one of the great clips we saw the Cubs post was of Seiya Suzuki, who is returning home along with his teammate Shota Imanaga. He was doing batting practice with a Hattori Hanzo samurai sword, everybody. And I got to say, when it comes to batting drills, this one really stood out to me because, I'm sitting here trying to imagine myself, of course, swinging a sword at a pitch and like how it would feel to me. And I feel like I would have a pretty solid idea of what it would look like. But the interesting thing about this particular drill that I think could be implemented and go a long way for people is the fact that the blade itself is so thin that it would really help you, I think, with barreling up a baseball, because if you are able to start cutting everything in sight down the middle, you really have to track the ball really well to cut it right down the middle every time. Curveballs, fastballs. It's not just timing it up, it's following and tracking pitches, and he was basically cutting balls in half as they were coming in with the sword, like that was like kind of and then he hit the camera guy at the end, which was funny. This is a great hitting drill, is it not? Like,
oh yeah.
Okay. So I would like to see like Arise do this drill. Like, is he as good or who's the best? This could be part of all-star competition, right? Who can samurai hack the most balls down the middle?
Sure. It's a great activity. I would like to see it. I got a question though. The sword is lighter than the bat, right?
Yes. And it's also way different. Like, bats are top heavy and the sword is probably heaviest by its hilt.
Yes.
So it's a totally different weight balance. But I would also argue if it's heavier down by your wrists, it could help you get quicker wrists.
It's a valid point. Yeah.
But I don't know if you could put some kind of weight on the top of it to balance it out, but who knows? Go check this video out if you haven't seen it. Obviously, we are not a visual medium yet, so we're cannot show you the video, but we will work on that part of our show hopefully in the near future. We'll wait and see. But that and lots of other activities going on in Japan. So I wish MLB was just doing a better job of getting this into like the mainstream media and like letting everyone in the world know this is going on. I think we talked about it a little bit on the last episode or the episode before that. I don't remember, but Ohtani is such a big star, but he's not really discovered yet in America. He's a bigger star where he's at now. And I think just showing him in his element at home, the way he's treated, like probably similar to how Jordan is treated back in the day, I think that would only make him bigger in America. It's like, oh, we're missing out. They know something we don't know, and it would make the fear of missing out even bigger. And he's already done so much here. It's amazing to think that he's not known, but yet like it doesn't penetrate. It's not in the top of like Good Morning America. It's not like, did you see Shohei last night? It used to be like this 30 years ago.
Is it because he's
People
Japanese?
talked about baseball. It was that big.
Is it because he's Japanese?
I don't think it's because he's Japanese. I think it's because football has overtaken baseball as like the water cooler sport, and
there's
basketball.
There's a lot going on with NFL right now too. So
of course, I've had my eyes glued to ESPN's live update free agent tracker for a lot of the week. I've just been an ecstatic Bears fan, like I guess for the third straight offseason, we won the offseason, which is not important, but pat on the back kind of stuff. But that's pretty cool to see your team go out like the Bears did. And just a quick football note, by the way, but seeing the Bears go out and do what they did this week and basically make all of their fans' wishes come true is really a sight to behold.
The Bears. The Bears.
Everyone's got good vibes right now about the Bears because they kind of went out and were like, okay, we hear you, everybody. Like, we know our offensive line sucked. We know our defensive line needs some work. And they just spent money on 5 players and brought them in. And we're like, okay. And these are not just guys. These are like real guys. And they just changed the entire culture of their team. Football is won and lost at the line of scrimmage. End of story.
We will have to wait and see how the season turns out for the Bears.
We will. And a lot more pressure will now be put on number 18's shoulders in the city of the big shoulders. So
they do have a good coach now. Fingers crossed,
Fingers crossed, but all things seem to be aligning for a destiny in Chicago.
You know what it is? Everybody's on the same timeline right now.
Yeah, that's a nice thing to see. And it's also nice to see a philosophy start to take hold and accountability, you know. Even you saw Ben Johnson talk about his ideal lineman this week in the press conference. And Ryan Poles, the general manager, couldn't help but like smirk when he was hearing his new head coach talk about offensive linemen need to be dirty. And it's like, what? He's not necessarily saying they need to be dirty players in the sense that they're seeking to injure their opponent, but it's like you need to be a little bit nasty and you need to be able to get your hands dirty. It's a dirty job. It's like being a garbage man in humanity.
Well, they are like gladiators. Don't be afraid to get dirty.
Yeah, I think they just, everyone watches the quarterback and the running backs and the playmakers, the linebacker. You see them more, but like the lineman is where the game is actually really happening, and it's like literally the ground probably shaking underneath these 350-pound behemoths, All right. Well, it was a fun baseball week as well as all of this football free agency news happens. Before we move off of football, though, I should really quickly point out Aaron Rodgers unsigned still. It's this big drama story right now. So that is also a big distraction in all of NFL free agency. And will he follow in the footsteps of one Brett Favre, everybody? Will he go from the Packers to 2 years of the Jets to the Vikings? That seems to be one of the narratives that's taking hold here as a possibility. The Steelers and the New York Giants are the other two possibilities, I guess. And he holds all the power, it sounds like, to make his own choice. So
he's taking his time to make a choice.
He's taking his time, much to the chagrin of the NFL world, I think, because aside from a few outliers, I think a lot of the free agency has slowed down because of that decision, because it will affect things. And as we heard from a lot of the talking heads in the NFL world, there's a quarterback shortage problem. Maybe we'll do a podcast about that soon because, man, we got a lot of NFL stuff that we need to talk about, as you can see.
Yeah, there's lots going on with NFL.
And it's not even the season. It's
not.
like almost like there's more to talk about now that the season's not happening, because there's just so many players on a roster and so many things moving around and possibilities inbound. Well, one thing that's not a possibility is news, and we've got some news to get to in the baseball world. Nika, can you cue the breaking news music?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
This bullet just handed to me.
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right. Well, a quick little news nugget here that came across my desk this week was the MLB trade deadline. Yes, you heard that correct. The trading deadline has been set for the 2025 season. And it's always kind of fun to know that like the entire calendar, I guess, is not set when they start spring training, because this was unknown. But the trading deadline will be July 31st, everybody. And that is going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Oh, man, I am looking ahead here, and that is a Thursday, everybody.
Oh.
That is kind of interesting. I always feel like the trading deadline was like a Monday or a Tuesday thing. So I guess it doesn't really matter when, but kind of funny. It will set up for everyone to take their new teams on August 1st on a Friday.
Oh, that's interesting. It's a Thursday. That gives players time to move maybe to their potential new teams.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I think in the past, there's been like maybe a day or two of a gap, like with travel and stuff. I like it. It's going to be right before our Friday show. So that's kind of perfect. And we will be following it all, of course, in July. But we're a long ways away from then, everybody. And we got some news from Dodger camp this week. And this involves one Ha-Seong Kim, not to be confused with the new Rays shortstop / former Padres shortstop Ha-Seong Kim, both of the Korean baseball organization, by the way, the KBO. Ha-Seong Kim was optioned to AAA, everybody. He, of course, was a big free agent that wound up signing with the Dodgers out of Korean baseball. Let's hear from John Morosi about this on MLB Network, everybody.
The way the Dodgers roster is shaping up, if you've got Tommy Edman at second, Betts at short, Muncy, who we saw on the A block, and the way that Max has come in great shape for spring training, and then your bench, the infielders or super utility guys, Ike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas, Chris Taylor. There's just not a lot of at-bats there because the Dodgers have brought in and kept so many veteran utility and super utility players that it does not make sense for Ha-Seong Kim to come up to the major leagues right now and sit on the bench. If Edman's your second baseman, if Mookie's your shortstop, you've already got a center field figured out. They've brought in Conforto to help in the outfield. Where are your at-bats?
All right. Well, you can also hear Lauren Jihadi there in the background, but I got to say, what a luxury it must be for the Dodgers to just sign these players. And is there any remorse here, do you think, from Ha-Seong Kim in choosing to sign with an organization that now does not have room for him?
It's sad, really, because he comes here in hopes to be part of a Major League Baseball, not a minor league baseball. If you want to stay in the minors, you should have stayed in Korea.
Maybe. Yeah, it does kind of say that. And you just wonder, like, with all the teams that, you know, could use a guy like him, like, I guess it makes me question, like, is he really not ready for major league pitching, or would he be a starter on another team potentially right now?
I call it BS on this one. It's an easy excuse for teams to get him up. Oh, he's not ready for the major league pitching staffs.
I 100% agree with you. I think the Dodgers, when they signed him, I don't think they had necessarily made decisions about Kiki Hernandez and some other players that got mentioned in that sound clip.
The veteran players.
The veteran, not just the veterans, but the veteran role players, the veteran utility players that are just going to, like, play third base and give Max Muncy a day off when you need it, or play second base when you want to give Tommy Edman a day off, or play center field when you want to give, I don't know who's playing center now for the Dodgers. But
it might change by the time the season starts. So
100%. I just feel like this is like a flex move that the Dodgers made to sign him. I'm not saying they made empty promises to him or anything, but I guess I would feel a little bit misled here, because everything we heard about this guy when he was going to get signed is that he's going to be like an impact player. So now to say he's not ready for the show when you have all these, like, and I got to bring up Chris Taylor. I'm sorry, man. This dude, he's barely been holding water anymore, and he's on the roster. And ahead of this guy. It's like, why did you sign this guy if you're bringing Chris Taylor back? Like,
that's a Dodgers problem.
It is a Dodgers problem.
I know, but that's been happening in the Dodgers organization for a long time. They are sticking with what they know versus trying the new players, trying new and upcoming players.
Well, they got away with it last year. They won the World Series, and they seem to have this tendency now to lean more towards veteran and what they know versus, like, new. I agree with you. It does make me wonder how Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki are going to play out over time with the Dodgers organization. And we heard, like, could you imagine Roki Sasaki being optioned to AAA right now or something like that? Like, imagine
with
that.
all the
This is the same
fanfare?
thing that's happening to Ha-Seong Kim in a way. You know, he's coming from a foreign country. Now he's being put into, like, riding the bus. Like, it's going to be tough, man.
The language barrier, the other stuff that come with it, cultural
Right.
stuff.
That's what I mean. Like, the discrimination that might happen, and this, who knows? I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but not from his teammates per se, but, like, he doesn't speak probably a lick of English. Anyways, I just think it's a tough spot to put the guy in, and I guess I feel for him right now. And I don't like the fact that there's a little empathy from MLB Network about this, and not enough questioning here.
Remember when Michael King got traded to the Padres because the Yankees were holding him back?
Yeah.
This has a very similar feel to it.
It feels like they just signed a guy and now they're holding him back right away because, oh, sorry, we decided to bring back some more of our veterans that we weren't sure about, you know, but they gave us friendly hometown discounts, so sorry.
Yeah.
And that just feels like a luxury that, you know, 28, 27 other teams don't have right now.
Exactly.
The Dodgers have played the system to their advantage, but, you know, when it comes to competitive balance, it seems like there's not a lot on the surface right now when you're sending a guy to AAA who would be a starter on 20 to 25 other teams.
And the media just makes excuses for it.
Yeah.
They don't call it out BS.
I feel like he should be a little bit harder here on Dodgers management and say, like, what are we doing here? Bringing a guy this far overseas just to toss him in the minors? Like,
Doesn't seem right.
If he was on the Pirates and this happened, I would feel a little bit more sympathetic. I'm just saying it's the Dodgers. And the reason that you're saying that there's not room for him is because there's not at bats for him because you decided to bring back other players.
And now you're making an excuse to send him to minors because he will get the at bats over there.
Yeah, because you didn't do your offseason math properly. Like, that just seems really unfair to a guy who moved his whole life over here from a foreign country.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm calling it what it is. All right. Well, one guy who's not getting held back is Chicago Cubs third baseman Matt Shaw. Here's the announcement from Craig Counsell, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think Matt Shaw is going to Japan. That's probably the news, the big news.
That was kind of funny. It's a short little clip of Craig there. But yeah, as you heard, Matt Shaw is going to Japan. He is in Japan with the Cubs. And he will be the starting opening day third baseman here in just a couple of days. It's going to, like I said, be on early Tuesday morning for us, Nika, 3:10 a.m. That's going to be 5:10 a.m. Chicago time, 6:10 a.m. New York East Coast time. But nevertheless, an early game for us here on the West Coast. And it will repeat again on Wednesday morning for the 2-game series. So we will have to get up early, just like we did last year, I believe, for the Padres Dodgers when they played in Korea. It's, I think, similar time zone here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll be exciting, but exciting stuff for Matt Shaw. And in contrast to Hai-Seong Kim, I give the Cubs credit here for sticking with this plan because I know they didn't get Alex Bregman. And I think that could be a blessing in disguise. So good luck to Matt Shaw. We saw the effect Jackson Merrill had on the Padres almost immediately last year, including like getting hits in that Korean series. So, let's see Matt Shaw do the same thing and get the season off to a good start here. I like to see young guys succeed. So,
They're
singing, go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go!
Put a stamp on that third base position and lock it up for a while for the Cubs. Yeah, that'll be a huge win for the Cubs if they can put that third base on lockdown for a 5-year period and not worry about it. You got something there. So, all right. Good luck. And meanwhile, I saw a little blurb from Ronald Acuna Jr. This was from Aiden Gonzalez, who's also with ESPN. But Ronald Acuna Jr. is putting the brakes on himself here and saying that he wants to stay healthy instead of trying to steal as many bases as possible. A direct quote says, "I'd rather steal 30 and play a whole year as opposed to stealing 70, injuring myself, and missing a whole year." Nika, what do you think about Ronald Acuna's new approach here? What is that?
He's nerfing himself.
He's nerfing himself. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Not what I think Braves fans probably want to hear, although I'm sure there's going to be some spin that like we have to accept this now.
Oh, yeah.
This is just if you either accept this or you deal with an injury plagued career.
But he has to run in the outfield as well, back and forth to chase the balls. He's got to run from base to base. So how is stealing different than running bases?
Well, I just also want to point out that there's a really incomplete picture here. And we as a society give way too much of a benefit of the doubt of trusting that these players have the best nutritionists and doctors in the world working for them. And I got to be honest with you, the fact that he had these 2 knee injuries so close together, and especially the way he got the second one. It was, if you remember, he kind of hesitated and went one direction and then tried to go back the next direction. And in that plant is in going one way and then going back the other way is when he had this second injury. And that's not like normal. Like your body is designed to like put on the brakes and go in another direction. And so I do kind of question, like, what are they eating? Are they eating the right foods that are strong for their joints and their tendons and things of that nature? And from what we know and see, it doesn't look like it from a distance. And it looks like there's far too much sugar and things that are destructive to joints in the diet. And without knowing the complete picture of Ronald Acuna Jr.'s and, I'm not saying his life history, but just is he making any changes to his diet to try to prevent injury or things like that? You don't hear that get asked about enough or talked about enough. And I wish we would. And not just for calling him out on it, but maybe to get him thinking about, like, why are you asking me that? Maybe the player isn't being taught this or asked this and is going to go to his nutritionist and be like, hey, is there any changes I can make to my diet to prevent injury? And if they say no, then you need to find a new nutritionist and doctor.
Yeah.
You absolutely do. End of story.
Between the coaching, nutrition, we don't know what is happening on the off the field with players.
We do not. Nika, moving on. We do know that the Rays are no longer going to be building a new stadium in Tampa Bay. The team released a statement on Thursday morning, yesterday. Opening day is right around the corner, and we are eager and prepared for what promises to be an exciting and fun season of baseball. They go on to say the bad news.
What's the bad news?
The bad news is that after careful deliberation, we have concluded we cannot move forward with the new ballpark and development project at this moment. A series of events beginning in October that no one could have anticipated led to this difficult decision. The statement from Stuart Sternberg, I noticed he refers to himself as Stuart, not Stu, as the media calls him, basically goes on to reinforce their commitment to the organization, to the team, and to the city. There's an ugly situation that's been brewing and developing in Tampa that we sort of touched on the last podcast, but the long and short of it is that when hurricane damage actually put the entire stadium out of commission for the entire 2025 season last fall, there was some kind of vote that was needed, I guess, to secure funds for this fix, and it was delayed. And because it was delayed, the Rays owner is basically saying, like, I'm not paying it. You guys owe me money because your delay cost me money. And the city's not having it. I have been following on Twitter from afar the situation with Chris Latvala. He is a Pinellas County commissioner, and he is heavily tweeting against all Rays ownership, like, statements, basically saying that, like, this is an actual tweet. Make no mistake, the only person to blame is the same person who is to blame for a stadium not getting across home plate the last 15 years. Stuart L. Sternberg. It's not the players, coaches, and employees' fault that their owner is a horrible person who needs to sell the team. I will always cheer for the Rays, but I personally enjoy going to Dunedin and Clearwater games. I don't know who those are. Probably some minor league games, I would guess. But yeah, he is, as you can see, this guy is going on a bender publicly against the Rays owner right now. And this situation is ugly. We saw that some major league owners and members of the commissioner's office have gently nudged the Rays to get new ownership, please. Whenever you have a city that's at odds with their team ownership, it gets ugly, right? And we're seeing that play out in Tampa right now, unfortunately, because of these hurricane winds that came through last year. And I think it's sad because we're not going to see those stadium plans now come to fruition that we saw last year that we were kind of excited about. We're like, oh, this looks nice. And it brings outdoor baseball back to Southern Florida, which is quite frankly needed.
Well, the dome that they have right now is broken.
Right.
So they're not going to have a dome. So they will have games outside.
I guess so, yeah.
The stadium. You look at it like that, but.
Well, for 1 year at least, because they did say that the stadium will reopen in 2026, the Dark Death Stadium, as I call it.
Dome.
It's so empty and dark. And I argue that no one wants to see baseball in Florida in the dark. Sunny Florida is called Sunny Florida.
For a reason.
For a reason. I sincerely hope that this situation gets resolved. And, you know, there's been some whispers around the Twitterverse about, you know, let's let the Eric Davis, former Cincinnati Red, is leading an ownership group in Orlando, and let's move the team to Orlando. I guess whatever gets baseball back outside in Florida again, I'm all for on a regular basis. So, all right. Well, we did also have a little bit of news after we went off the air the other day with regards to Dave Roberts. He did get his contract, Nika. He was locked up for a 4-year extension, and the average per year turned out to be $8.5 million, I believe.
8.1.
8.1. So he got a little bit ahead of Craig Counsell, basically, and is now the highest paid manager in Major League Baseball.
Well, with their budget for the Dodgers team is the highest in the baseball as well, reaching almost $400 million as a team. That's crazy.
It is. The one thing I'll say about this contract is it will be hard to fire a manager who's making that much a year and justify it, even for the Dodgers, like
knowing how Dodgers operate, he's going to stay there for 4 years, no matter what the results are.
I agree with you. And I think that is a potentially good news if you're not a Dodgers fan, because I don't know if Dave Roberts is going to manage this team very well. I know that sounds crazy because they won the World Series last year and he did navigate the playoffs with his bullpen. And I guess you could say and argue that he made all the right calls. However, I just feel like this is an aging roster. It's going to prove to be a very challenging situation to manage, both egotistically and injury-wise. And especially when those two things come into clash with each other about like, it's my turn to pitch in the rotation, but oh, this guy needs to pitch today because he needs an extra day to get ready for this or whatever. And all of a sudden you got concessions being made for a lot of players across the board. And I just think that spells a little bit of a precarious situation.
Time will tell.
We also don't know how MLB is going to change the rules in the near future. If they make any changes to, if your starting pitcher doesn't go 4 innings, you lose your DH today. And how that would affect a team like the Dodgers, who invest so heavily in the DH position with Shohei at top and as a pitcher.
Also, the salary cap might be introduced as well. So he will have to navigate that.
That's something that I think is going to be a hotly debated topic when the next collective bargaining agreement needs to be decided because of what the Dodgers have done and how they were able to do it. Like we've said all along, they've never done anything illegal, quote unquote. But their television deal and now all of this having 68 of $70 million deferred for 10 years with the best player in the game, those two things combined have really given them an unfair competitive balance in the league. And you like to think these things will take care of themselves, but at the same time, like when it's this blatant, like when you have guys that are coming over from other countries being sent to the minors, I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I think that is a problem, and that if it needs to be put in writing to be fixed, then so be it.
Yeah.
Well, Dave Roberts, good luck to you on this managerial duty. You're going to have your hands full, my friend, and good luck. With that, I think it's time to turn it over to the injury report. We usually go to rumors after news, but today we're doing things a little bit differently because, well, you'll see why.
Ready?
Yes, doctor.
Doctor, give me the news.
I must confess, you have an astonishingly good idea there, Doctor.
Damn it, man, I'm a doctor, not a torpedo technician.
Dr. Harris.
Yes?
Do you concur?
Is there anything you can do, doctor?
Somebody give me a doctor!
We got a quick little injury report to get to this week. I'm going to start with Bobby Witt Jr., who is luckily not going to be on the injured list, but big scary moment in spring training, seeing him get hit on the arm with a pitch and then leave the game. I know all of Kansas City was holding their collective breath for a few hours until word came out that the x-rays were negative and that Bobby Witt Jr. was actually tweeting himself with his phone hand. And, yeah, nothing further came through the next morning. We didn't have a situation of swelling and, we found a little hairline fracture now that the swelling's gone down. So none of that. Bobby Witt Jr. is good.
Yo, Bobby!
Everyone can breathe because, well, he makes the game better.
Kansas City needs Bobby to be healthy.
Baseball needs Bobby. You know,
Sure.
Between Ohtani and Aaron Judge, we need a little speedster up there that's considered an MVP-esque player. And Bobby Witt Jr. does fill that role right now. Okay, well, I'm going to turn it to Tyler Stevenson, who got an MRI on his back. And Terry Francona, the new skipper for the Cincinnati Reds, he kind of downplayed this ahead of time. And I don't know if he should have, because Tyler Stevenson is now, as of this morning, slated to start the season on the IL. And he got an MRI on his back. As a catcher, that's a bad situation to have in spring. I feel like this is the kind of thing that could, put a damper on your entire season almost. Not a good situation for the Reds. He is the backup catcher / first baseman, but, you're only as strong as your weakest link, Nika. We've seen it all along. And the Reds are looking to make change this year with Terry Francona in there. They're looking to make moves, take the NL Central by surprise, perhaps. And they're going to have stiff competition. You got Pittsburgh that wants to stay good, and they got Skeens. And oh, by the way, the Cubs and the Brewers aren't going anywhere. The Cardinals, they still seem like they're doomed to me. All right. Well, now I'm going to turn it over to the pitching side of things, where it was Lucas Giolito, who's coming back from. He had that brace put in, and so he had that half of the Tommy John. He had this last year, so he's coming back now this year, and he left his start in spring training after just one inning with hamstring tightness. Mm-hmm. He was getting an MRI. I haven't heard what his status is, but Boston is kind of on edge with their starting pitching because they needed to stay healthy, and so this is not in the right direction. They're already suffering with Cutter Crawford. I think he was just having the flu, but this is all setting guys back, right? Oh yeah. So the AL East, by the way, has a huge pitching problem.
He was right. You have to fix the real problem.
Because Garrett Cole is now going under the knife. We mentioned this on the last podcast. It was the main topic of discussion. We all assumed that this is what was happening, but it is now done. The surgery is over. He is out for 2025. And
are the Yankees panicking?
It sounds like the Yankees are panicking. It sounds like the Red Sox are, wondering, do we have enough? The AL East, which for all intents and purposes suddenly seems wide open, like the Orioles, they don't have Corbin Burns anymore.
That's right. They don't.
The Blue Jays have added Anthony Santander, and I would imagine that they're going to get a better season out of Bo Bichette. And if they keep getting what they get out of Vlad Jr., do they become a juggernaut in that division all of a sudden? I think that division's wide open, and I think it explains our first rumors story, Nika. So will you cue the rumors music, please?
Are the rumors true?
I love rumors.
You're all vulnerable to vicious rumors.
Well, you know how this town is. People talk and they spread these cruel rumors.
Rumors? Rumors? Spread by whom?
All right. Well, pitching is getting to be more and more and more and more of a premium year after year after year. I know that was a mouthful, but it needed to be said, Nika. But the one story that will not go away in all of spring training when it comes to rumors is this idea that Dylan Cease is on the trading block. Anthony Franco from MLB Trade Rumors, March 13th, 2025, last night wrote that around 9 teams have been in contact with the Padres to express interest in Dylan Cease. And he actually is citing John Heyman of the New York Post. John Heyman, who never met a rumor he didn't want to write about. Am I right? Yep. Hey, man. Hey, man. Tell me that's not a made-up pen name. Hey, man.
Definitely is.
John Heyman lists the Cubs, Mets, and all 5 AL East teams among the group of 9. All 5. The Rays, the Orioles, the Jays, the Yankees, and the Red Sox, all wanting a piece of Dylan Cease. I feel like this rumor is going to only get stronger if the Padres have a slow start for some reason.
Oh, definitely. There's going to be a calls to sell, as every year.
Hopefully they get off to a hot start and just make all the establishment heads explode. That's what I like to see. The good news about this rumor is that Kevin Acee, who is a beat reporter for the San Diego Union Tribune, we've quoted him a few times on this podcast in the past. He wrote earlier this week that the Padres are only interested in trading if they receive a really significant prospect / offensive piece, and also a major league ready starter to fill in for Dylan Cease in their rotation. And for 1 year of Dylan Cease, like not a lot of teams have that to give.
It's a tall order for a lot of teams.
So I feel like they've just priced him out of the market on purpose to see if anyone's really that desperate. And if they are, then maybe you do the trade. And as sad as it is, it's just business. But I don't think he's going anywhere.
I think it all depends how the Padres do before the All-Star game. Before the trade deadline, if they don't see themselves going into postseason, then they might let go of Dylan Cease.
And they will have that full calendar to work with. I don't see him moving early unless it's like really ugly in April. But I mean, even if they're like only 500 in April, they're not going to give up. They were 51-50 at the All-Star break last year, and they went 44-17 over their final like 10 weeks to basically be the best team in baseball from the All-Star break on. And so, yeah, Padres are definitely going to be a long time away from selling unless that premium deal comes in, and you can leave it up to your own imagination of what you think that might look like in terms of players back. But I don't think there's a lot of teams that have it to give.
The same thing that NFL suffers from lack of good quarterbacks, MLB suffers from major league ready starting pitchers. Yeah, 100%, Nika. Great comment. And it's for totally different reasons probably, but it is nevertheless a problem now in both NFL and MLB. A lack of arms. Do you think soccer will fill in that void when there's not enough players to fill the positions? The young kids gravitate towards soccer nowadays?
I don't know. I hope kids are just getting exercise at this point. I hope they're getting outside enough. Every time I'm around kids, they're on devices or distracted by media or things of that nature, but they're rarely begging at the back door to run outside.
That's true. Sad.
Okay, well, we are moving this right along in rumor land, and we got some audio from Ken Rosenthal about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because the last time we talked about this, Vlad Jr. had kind of said he was under 600 million. Well, now we find out that it was actually really a lot closer to 500 million. That was like the threshold. When you're talking about 15 years at 500 million, you're talking about $37.5 million a year, approximately, or 35.7. And that's over 14 years, my bad, not 15. So that's what was, and that would run through Guerrero's age 39 season. So this all comes from Ken Rosenthal, and we got some audio of Ken talking about this situation, and let's take a listen, Nika.
Well, first of all, the New York Post reported yesterday that the Jays' offer was in the $500 million range, but with deferrals around 400 to 450. Now, it's closer to 450, according to Sportsnet. They reported that this morning. So that's where the Jays were, 450 present value. And then I reported yesterday as well that Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s ask is 500 present day value. So the difference we're talking about, AJ, is $50 million over 14 years. That's not a lot of money.
That's nothing.
They can do that. Or at least they can compromise on it. So I don't know how to quite interpret all this, Scott. I would say it's not necessarily over if the Jays come back to him. Vlad Jr. has said if they come with a realistic offer before opening day, I'll listen.
Well, I got to ask you, do you think that there's still a chance that this is going to get done before opening day?
I don't know if it's going to get done before the opening day, but the Blue Jays left themselves the door open in case they want to come back and get Vlad.
It sounds like the door's open on his side a little bit too. Like if the offer is significant, I'll listen to it.
Because I don't think he wants to move. He really wanted to stay Blue Jay.
Let me ask you this. With Garrett Cole going down and with, I'm not saying Boston's weakened by losing Giolito, but do you think if the Blue Jays smell blood in the water, they should just be like, let's do this so that there's no, I guess, dark cloud hanging over the season?
Okay, I think they should do it because if the Yankees all of a sudden come up with better deal, what's stopping Vlad to move to the Yankees?
Well, yeah, I guess it's one of those things where are you also betting against your own division here of like, are they going to open their wallets next year, Boston or New York, when it comes to Vlad Jr. and locking him up long term?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And we're not talking
We're getting
about,
way ahead of ourselves, a little bit, but I still think the Blue Jays are getting a good deal here.
Yeah. I don't think that's a lot of money. The bridge is not that long.
Yeah, I rarely agree with Ken Rosenthal, but he is right. This is not a big bridge to gap here. When you're talking about 14 years and $50 million, that math is like $3 million a year. That's not going to break a Major League Baseball's
and
book.
it kind of gives you an insight what Vlad is thinking. He wants a long, extended place that he can stay, put his roots down, and be comfortable. Not to think about this ever again.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I'm actually going to put a 51% chance that this gets done before the season starts.
All right.
Moving right along, got a couple pitching rumors to go around, Nika. The first one involves one of our old friends, Lance Lynn, everybody, who is apparently being looked at pretty heavily here and having talks with the Cubbies. I don't know how I feel about this.
Hey, maybe he will have to join them in Japan, just like Dylan Cease had to do it last year with the Padres.
Do they have a sumo wrestling event that they're taking part in?
Maybe.
All joking aside, man, Lance Lynn on the Cubs, it sounds to me like depth more than like something that they are hoping that they need to use.
Are we talking about starting pitching, or are we talking just pitching in general?
I know at one point there was a rumor that Lance Lynn was being possibly looked at as a bullpen role for a team. I wouldn't hate that idea. Just, hey, go out there and give me 60 games, an inning, an inning or two. I think that's something that he could probably do still. And he's a major league experienced guy, so he can navigate lineups enough. Somebody on Twitter, I'm going to pull this comment up really quick. Matt Clapp at the Blog Finds says, Lance Lynn is fine depth, maybe even good depth, but this one is weird on the surface because they hypothetically already have very good depth, unless the Assad injury is a concern and or they intend to have both Brown and Wicks in Iowa stretched out for a while, etc. I kind of have to agree with him here. The Cubs have Ben Brown, they have Jordan Wicks, they have also Javier Assad with this oblique injury, and it was rumored that that was not a big concern, and yet we've seen in the past how oblique injuries go, is that they become these nagging things. I'm inclined to agree with Matt here that this isn't a need on the Cubs right now, but I don't know if they feel confident with these pitchers that they have.
Pitching is at the premium, so the more pitchers you can put on your roster, more power to you.
I know, but if they were going to move Cease, or if they were going to make a move for a player like Dylan Cease, for example, in a trade, the Cubs would have to give up some of these pitchers in return, like a Ben Brown or a Jordan Wicks to the Padres, because we know that they want a major league ready starter in return.
But what are you getting with the major league starter that's unproven versus the one that has been proven already?
I know, but you're only getting that Cease for 1 year.
I know.
So that's the trade-off. You're literally spelling it out for us. Yeah, I don't know. We've said starting pitching is at a premium. I think this is just like an insurance policy almost for the Cubs than anything. It's like a just in case. But then are you costing Lance Lynn a job elsewhere, just like you're costing Hyun-Soo Kim a job elsewhere if you're the Dodgers? Do they care?
I don't know.
Somebody's got to care about these players, damn it. Well, we mentioned Garrett Cole's injury, and that takes us to the last rumor of the show, and that is Kyle Gibson is being looked at as an emergency free agent for the Yankees now. Well, Kyle Gibson is one of the few remaining free agents out there on the market, and the fact that he hasn't been signed yet lets you know that this is going to be sort of a desperate move. I'm not making a knock on Kyle Gibson, but the price is obviously exceeded the want from the market. So I'm assuming a deal is going to get done here because, like we've said, pitching is at a premium and someone's going to need some innings eaten up, and Kyle Gibson's going to be there. He's better than Rich Hill, right?
That's true. Well, Kyle Gibson is a lot younger than Rich Hill because he's only 37.
Everybody in Major League Baseball is a lot younger than Rich Hill. Come on.
That's
Nika.
true.
What is he, 45 now?
45. Rich Hill is 45.
There's not a lot when it comes to starting pitching. So
No.
I think, yeah, unless the Yankees want to trade some of their prospects, which they don't want to do, they're going to be stuck with getting Kyle Gibson out of free agency.
So if the Yankees decide to go with Kyle Gibson, do they have to pay him the market value or do they have to pay him the league minimum?
Well, I mean, they have to pay him what he's asking for. He's a free agent. He might want $10 million for the year, and that's why nobody has signed him yet. But now that somebody's going to get desperate, they might be like, okay, well, what's $10 million?
Well, he's asking for over $13 million.
Well, there you go.
He's the most expensive starting pitchers left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's $13 million compared to Blake Snell? I mean, you're going to get the same amount of innings, maybe.
Exactly. And Lance Lynn is 37 as well. He's a little bit older than Kyle, but he costs half that money.
Yeah. Well, Kyle Gibson was also actually making the rounds on social media this week because he was on some kind of John Boy media interview with Trevor Plouffe, our guy that hosts Baseball Today with Jim Rose. And this is going to lead us into our new Tell Me How You Really Feel segment, Nika.
They didn't even ask how I'm feeling.
You don't know how I feel!
You want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Maybe you can tell them how I really feel.
I got something to say.
That's not any better. Say what you gotta say.
All right. Yes, this is Tell Me How You Really Feel, everybody. And this is the segment where we find somebody who is speaking frankly and speaking the truth, as you might have gathered from that intro that I just love putting those together for everybody. But here we found Kyle Gibson with Trevor talking about, starting pitching in spring training and chasing velocity. Let's take a listen.
Rodon basically said it's inevitable. Whether you're 35 or 15, when it's your time, it's your time. You're a guy that went through it in 2011. Do you think that statement is true?
Yeah, I don't know what percentage of pitchers have to get Tommy John overall in the game to reach that inevitable point. But, I think we're there. If it's 80 to 85% of overhand throwers in our game that are going to get Tommy John, I'd say that's pretty inevitable. I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think, we're all chasing, that extra mile an hour in velocity. We're all chasing the extra RPMs and spin, even back to my time in Minnesota in 2019. The talk was every mile an hour on your fastball is basically like 0.3 off of your ERA. Now, you ask anybody if they can take 0.3 off of their ERA, they're going to say, yes. Some guys' goal is to throw every pitch as hard as they can because of the visual approach to home plate that it creates.
0.3 on your ERA every miles per hour. That's actually a crazy way to put it. And yeah, if you're a pitcher, every 0.3 off your ERA, it's millions of dollars we're talking about.
Well, I thought this was a great soundbite this week, considering everything we've been talking about, considering all the Tommy Johns that we're literally living in an epidemic. And here you have a guy basically laying it all out there and putting it in not just, competitive terms, but also in financial terms and how those precious even decimal points start to be valuable and how they're valued. I found this fascinating and also kind of sad.
They all chase.
It's become a league of chasing velocity. And at the same time, that's why you have more and more incidents of Bobby Witt Jr. getting hit on the hand and on the forearm and just a lack of control. And you see grown men just trying to throw a baseball as hard as they possibly can and losing all control of their physical body doing it. And it's hard to watch from afar, and it reminds me of the exact opposite way I was taught to play the game.
It's sad, really, because then you get a lot of more injuries on the pitchers and the batters.
I hope it gets put in its place sooner than later, because it is turning the game into gladiator style entertainment versus actual true competitive sport.
Yeah,
I remember Mad Max talking about how challenging it is to face a lineup the third time through every night and how that made him a better pitcher because of that challenge, and how many guys are missing out on that experience and becoming better pitchers and becoming maybe a next 250, 300 game winner that Justin Verlander says is not going to happen anymore. He might be the last one if he even makes it. We've talked about how hard it's going to be for him to get 38 more wins. So
yeah. It's a tough one considering that the mainstream media advertises the heat, the velocity. That's all they look for.
Yeah, we saw Chris Young. We heard Chris Young on this podcast on Monday talking about is Jacob deGrom really Jacob deGrom if he's not throwing triple digits? And it's like, oh my gosh, he's trying to throw 97, 98.
I know, it's never enough.
It's not enough. And yet we know it's enough. We saw Greg Maddux get out a generation of major league hitters, except for Tony Gwynn. He'll tell you that. But he got out a generation of major league hitters by just mixing speeds and locating pitches. And in his fastball topped out at 94. So I just think this idea that it's all about straight velocity is horseshit, and it needs to go away. It's a bad opinion. And we just keep getting more and more of it instead of less and less of it.
It's really sad that the art of pitching is disappearing in front of our eyes.
I just thought it was really good to finally hear a player say the quiet part out loud. That, oh no, we're chasing velocity and we know that it's making us more valuable to do that. And yet...
At what cost?
We see the cost. We live in an age of Tommy John pandemics where everyone wants to look around and play dumb about it. And here's the problem, guys. Let me spell this out for you. In order to get more velocity, you sacrifice your mechanics. And when you sacrifice your mechanics, you hurt your arm. It's literally that simple. And no one wants to say this out loud because then it might put an end to chasing velocity. And they're like, love bigger numbers. It makes their job easier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Then they don't have to analyze like mixing speeds and all the complexities of the game. And yet we've been doing this for already. So they're just taking it backwards by dwindling it down. Like I said, it's a meathead philosophy and it needs to be called out every time for what it is. All right, well, it's time to go beyond. Because we're going to stay on this topic right now because we have a great article this week from... I can't believe I'm saying this, from ESPN, everybody, and Jeff Passan, who he really did a nice write-up about Jacob deGrom. After that Chris Young analysis from Monday, we got a little bit of a different perspective from Jeff Passan, who actually spent time with Jacob deGrom in spring training on the ground. And I don't always agree with every one of Jeff's takes, but I thought he did a really good thing here by writing about this because... when we look at Jacob deGrom, he's made one start in spring training this year. He's pitched 2 innings and he struck out 3, 31 pitches total, 21 strikes. I mean, when you compare this to Blake Snell, I don't mean to pick on Blake all the time, but this is what you want when it comes to being economical with pitches, about 15 pitches an inning versus 20. I mean, that adds up so quickly and puts an end to your night. Can't even begin to explain it. But Jeff got really into the nitty gritty of this start with Jacob deGrom, his first spring training start here, where he got some great quotes. And he said, I look at the best in 2018, deGrom said, of his first Cy Young season. Quote, there were times when I hit 100 or close to it, but I think I sat around 96. And he goes on to say that's true. He only jumped up in 2019 to 98.6 and in 2020 to 99.2. So he kind of was adding velocity year after year after year and then started hurting his arm. Now he's trying to sit back at like 97 again. The results speak for themselves. Like he can still get guys out. He can still be economical with his pitches. He can still go out there and give you 2 innings and not walk guys and labor out there, right? He's pitching, and I love listening to this. Let's take a look at, he said, I'm going to jump ahead here. He said, I wasn't trying to build anything in a lab. My arm got a little long a few years ago, so trying to shorten up the arm path a little bit and sync up my mechanics really well is what I've been trying to do. He wants to make as many starts as he can. Quote, if that means throwing live at bats a little longer than his teammates, that's what he'll do. So Passan says that his approach carried into his Saturday debut against the Royals. This is what we've been talking about, this box score here. He averaged 97 miles per hour on his fastball, topping out at 98. His slider remained near its previous levels at 90. He flipped in a pair of curveballs for strikes too, just as a reminder that he's liable to buckle your knees at any given moment. On 31 pitches, he threw 21 strikes, didn't allow a base runner, and punched out 3, including MVP runner-up Bobby Witt Jr. on a vicious 91.5-mile-an-hour slider. I like hearing about this because it's just more about pitching and less about flame throwing and straight gas, or like you are going out. You not only are pitching, but you're executing.
You are 100% correct. He has already 2 Tommy John surgeries.
Yeah.
So he wants to preserve his arm as much as he can. There's no player that had 3 Tommy Johns and came back and had a successful career after that. It doesn't happen after so many surgeries like that. You just cannot continue to be a flamethrower.
If you want to be relevant and if you want to be on the field, you have to make adjustments.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad he's making adjustments, because I think we would all love to see a Cy Young number 3 for Jacob deGrom. I know a lot of card collectors who would love to see that because 3 Cy Youngs basically guarantees you a ticket to the Hall of Fame. But aside from that, I think it would just be good for baseball right now to have a pitcher who dials it back a notch and can still be successful.
And stays in the game longer, has the pitches, has the location and mechanics, and proves all these talking heads, it can be done. Because they will force them to talk about it.
And like Jeff Passan says here at the end of the article, he's searching for the best version of himself, and it just might look a little differently now. It's not going to be straight what we've become used to, like the 100-mile-an-hour heat. It's going to, but if it puts him on the field more and forces him to like pitch again, and when I say pitch, I mean like actually play chess out there with your hitters instead of just like I'm going to blow you away, then that's a good thing.
I want to see that Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, I want to see it too. I want him to take it all the way to the Cy Young this year. Let's see it. Let's see him do it. And
I think he can do it.
Put a new stake in the ground for starting pitching.
Exactly. Between him and Verlander, maybe they can turn this ship around.
All right. Well, good luck to Jacob deGrom, and thank you for going beyond with us. And we will stick with the theme of pitching, and we will do a quick stop the presses because it just continues.
Stop the press. Listen, I'm sorry about what I said. I was being an idiot.
Excellent example of infield journalistic investigative technique.
Therefore, your heinous comment will be stricken from the record.
People love it when you lose. They love dirty laundry.
I just happened to notice that our presses aren't running, which strikes me as rather odd since we are, after all, a newspaper.
I've been picking on Harold Reynolds, and it's going to continue because he's just like one of the few guys on in the morning right now. Once again, we have our old friend Harold Reynolds up to his tricks on MLB Network, and apologies to Harold. I get up early, and you're the only dude on in the morning right now that's saying dumb shit, at least. So, well, that's not true because we did have Chris Young on Jacob deGrom that we called out last time. But we're back to Harold again because Harold is talking about Roki Sasaki, who made his second start in spring training for the Dodgers ahead of his game 2 start in Japan next week against the Cubs. But Roki Sasaki has a split finger fastball, and it's quite nasty. In fact, Harold Reynolds is already saying it's, quote, the best he's ever seen. Let's take a listen, Nika.
We're talking during that highlight rip about his split, and you think it's the best you've ever seen?
I mean, it's right there. I've not seen, since Nomo came here and really broke that split off, and everybody was worried about, does he throw 99, does he throw 100? You can throw 85 and say, here's my split. It doesn't matter. This thing is dropping a foot.
Yeah.
You're not catching it.
We should quantify that because, you know, the guy that we talk about having the great split, Ohtani when he's pitching, Kevin Gossman, right? He's made that his signature pitch. It looks like Sasaki's gets more depth than both.
Way more depth. It's almost like Dave Stewart threw what they call a fork ball, right?
Right.
It's almost like Dave Stewart bite, but Dave Stewart's wasn't at 90 miles an hour.
I said the last part sarcastically because this is only spring training, and this guy has never even pitched in the major leagues yet. And we're already saying it's the best splitter he's ever seen. I want to point something out. Harold, you didn't even stand in the batter's box and look at it. So how can you even say that? You yourself know that this is BS. So I think you should come on the air and issue a correction about this until you've actually stood in the batter's box against it and looked at it. You're looking at images and saying like, oh, well, it's got this much of a drop, so it's this good. And it's like, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I actually got a hit off of a Major League Baseball pitcher in a batting practice session when I was in high school. He was doing a rehab start. He was left-handed, and I'm left-handed hitter. I got a single up the middle on a split finger fastball. So, and it was one of the luckiest hits I've ever gotten. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say lucky because I was relying on skill at that point, but
you got a hit.
I got a hit. I know what it's like to look at a major league pitcher throw a split finger fastball, I guess. I don't know what the best looks like. I'm not going to sit here and say that. I have the experience that Harold Reynolds has sitting against a major league split finger pitch, but I do know it's bull. I do know that it's impossible to say that it's the best you've ever seen unless you've stood in the batter's box against it. And so I'm calling you out for that, Harold Reynolds, and I will always call you out for that. I don't care if I call you out every show for it. If you keep saying dumb stuff on the air, you're going to keep getting called out on our Stop the Press segment week after week after week. So clean it up, man. Stop being so eccentric with your takes. Stop being so over exaggerated with your opinion.
He is over exaggerating when it comes to the Dodgers.
Everybody's the best he's ever seen at everything. And it's just like, come on, man. Come on, man.
Come on.
Stop the presses. Thanks for joining us. All right. Well, we are going to keep this show moving because it's Friday and we want to have a little bit of an afternoon. We got some spring breakouts to watch.
Oh, we do.
We got to watch these kids so we can talk about it on Monday.
And get familiar with their names.
Well, that'll be the most important part.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, we got a milestone this week, everybody.
Get ready for greatness.
By far, my greatest achievement.
We stand here amidst my achievement.
That record's going to hold for a while, let me tell you.
Yo, Adrian!
Just don't touch my records. Ever.
Yes, indeed. We do have a milestone. And even though there are no real games going on in spring training, there are real games happening at the collegiate level. And we had this week Kansas playing at Minnesota. Boy, oh boy, did the Kansas Jayhawks put a number on the Minnesota Golden Gophers. 5 straight batters hit long balls into the bleachers, not little league home runs. They actually hit out of the stadium. Well, they went yard, all of them, over the fence, 5 in a row. That was a record, everybody. But it only tied the record. This has actually happened in college before 3 times. It was done by South Carolina in 2006, by Eastern Illinois in 1998, and by Centenary, LA in 1992. As for Major League Baseball, the record is 4 straight hitters to hit a home run over the fence, and that has happened 11 times, everybody. The last time, by the way, was when the Cardinals did it in 2022, in case you were wondering.
What happened to the Cardinals since then?
Exactly.
Okay.
And as a Cubs fan, I couldn't be happier. Couldn't happen to a nicer organization. And the organization that fired Mike Schilt, by the way, just want to remind everybody that one of the dumbest decisions. I think that was baseball karma coming their way.
Okay.
All right. Well, those dirty Redbirds are, they always find a way to sneak into the conversation, though, Nika. Hey, guess what? We got some extra innings on this Friday. It's time for bonus baseball, everybody. All right. Well, Charge, we got this story just is too funny to resist. It is perfect for extra innings. This is exactly what you're looking for this segment. The Texas Rangers, everybody, their QC department is going to have to, I don't know, pay it back. They owe it. They made a boo-boo. Their QC department overlooked something when it came to promotions. Now, I kind of want to give them the benefit of the doubt here because I've seen other teams doing the same design, and yet they're the only ones that are going to have this specific problem because basically what's happening is the team, city, or state name is getting put on like an arch on the front of the hat, and then the team logo is getting slapped over that on the hat. And when Texas did that, they put their big T logo over the X in the middle of Texas. And It wound up spelling Tetas, everybody. And, well, Tetas is a Spanish dirty word, and you're going to have to go to Google to figure out what Tetas means in English. But I'm pretty sure you can use your imagination. Think of a female jiggly body part. Maybe.
Wow. Way to explain it. Okay.
Thank you. PG-13 explanation here on the KeNikka Sports Show, everybody. But this is super funny because this hat got missed in QA, and it was only after it was released that it was brought to the attention of Major League Baseball that this hat was being sold that has a Spanish slang word for a female body part on it. Well,
how many hats got sold?
I don't know. A few hats got out into the wild, and this has become one hot piece of merchandise, everybody.
I bet.
There are sales, not offers, but actual sales on eBay for this hat going for $1,000, everybody.
Well, you only have limited supply.
Best $40 you ever spent, probably, with that return.
No shit.
Holy cow. That's like more than 20xing your money.
That's crazy. And there were people that already bought those hats.
Yeah, there were. This is a funny one. This is what this segment is made for, like I said. And yeah, so if you really, really need this hat, everybody, you're going to have to go on eBay and pay a premium penny for it. If I may give you an alternate suggestion, it would be to the site intheclutch.com, and they have a shirt for sale with the same branding on it. It says "God bless Tetas" on it. And it's done up in the Texas Rangers colors. And this is going to be an inside joke for the rest of the Rangers franchise history.
Oh, no doubt. But the shirt was not officially released by the Texas Rangers, right?
No, but it comes with the product description, IYKYK, which of course means if you know, you know. And if you know, you know. Tetas, this was one of those moments. And if you were one of the lucky few to get the hat, sell that damn thing and take the $1,000, man.
It might be worth more later.
Oh, you thinking holding?
Maybe.
Oof.
If the Rangers make it to the playoffs, imagine that hat being worth twice as much.
Well, the thing about Taz is,
these two.
You seen one, you seen them all. Oh, boom.
All right.
All right. Fun. Well, that was exactly extra innings, and I hope you enjoyed this bonus baseball on this Friday, everybody. But with that, I think I'm going to leave it on a high note, Nika.
Perfect.
All right. Well, we will be back here, everybody. Today, we will be talking about these spring breakout games and be getting you ready for the start of baseball, everybody, in Japan on Tuesday. And I am trying to convince my co-host to maybe do a Wednesday episode next week as well, right after Game 2 ends, so we can celebrate the Dodgers starting the year 0-2.
Go Tetas.
Sure. Go Cubbies and go Tetas.
Sure.
Go Padres and go Mariners. Please hit the ball this year.
Have a good one.
That's all I got, everybody. And hey, Bears.
Da Bears.
Da Bears.